Welcome to the Shrink Show.
We are talking about Frozen, which in the whole timeline, Frozen 1 came
We're
out.
focusing on Frozen 1.
Yes, we're focusing on Frozen 1, though
It's Frozen 2, that music alone is its own episode. So
madly in love
we're just
with.
going to go back to Frozen 1 for a hot minute and just set the groundwork and wait for another episode to do the second one. It'll be
God,
fine.
I love the Frozen movies. I really, really do. And it's one of those things that I tell people, if you allow the good Disney movies, not, the harmful stories of Snow White and Beauty and the Beast, but if you allow the good Disney movies to truly enter your soul, there is so much empowerment and healing.
Like the Pixar newer ones, is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I feel like Frozen 1, I mean, I cried a ton at the, Let It Go.
Yeah. Well, what's so interesting is it's like the people who made these Pixar movies are our generation. And so they made it applicable, interestingly, to children and us. They're like, you want to know who needs this message too? Their parents. They're like two birds, one stone. They're going to take their kids to see this movie anyways. We might as well impart some wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we like these movies too.
I'm always so upset when people are like, I think Disney movies are lame. I don't even watch. I'm like, watch them. They're so.
That shows me you don't watch them. Yeah.
There's so many great wisdom nuggets within it.
So let's go down the character, shall we?
All right.
It starts off strong with Kristoff and his backstory.
Oh, and he's a little orphan.
Yes.
Raised
with his little French reindeer.
Well, right, in a community that looks nothing like him. I love.
And he's adopted because he was raised by his little gnomes.
Pebbles.
What were they? I don't know.
The rock people? Were they called the rock people?
Anyways.
Well, Pabby. Okay, Pabby is the wise and magical creature that has given some of his advice to our young heroes. It doesn't tell me. What is Pabby? Who are you, Pabby?
What are you?
Okay, keep going. All right, so you have Kristoff and his fucking reindeer, and he talks for the reindeer.
Yes. Well, because he needed a friend. So he created a friend because he was like, and it was his friend, right? Like they'd share things, they'd spend time together. He loved ice. Ice was his thing. And then it zooms over to give you the backstory of these two princesses who are best friends. And by best friends, it's such like a beautiful way of like older versus younger sibling dynamic, because the older sibling like would impart the fun for the little. Like the older use their imagination, or magic in this case, to make sure the little one had fun, to make sure the little one had a good childhood. And like, I think like, because in my intakes, I'll always ask like, what order were you in your household? Like, were you the oldest? Were you the youngest? Were you the middle child? Was there a huge age gap? So you were the youngest child, but you essentially were the only child? Like, so many questions. And so that helps because it helps you understand, like, subliminally, what were your parents like expecting of you? Because sometimes that happens in obvious ways and sometimes it happens in unobvious ways. And at least it appeared that the parents never forced it, but Elsa, older sister, was always like doing and being everything for her little sister. And it was out of love, but she was the big one. She was the, I will do this for you.
Until the day it was taken.
Ice skating rink and we will play on it. Yeah.
Yeah. And just thinking about, Anna and the whole situation of Elsa just playing and Anna getting hurt. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times my younger children are crying because the older one accidentally hurt them, because they don't always understand their power or their gifts or blah, blah, blah.
Or the big one hit the little one. Potato.
Yes. But, and I don't think the message was intentionally to shame her, but I mean, I've even used those words like, you have to understand how strong you are. Like you can really, like my 9-year-old will wrestle with my 3-year-old. Well, he's a lot stronger than my 3-year-old little girl. And so she'll sometimes get hurt and I'll be like, baby, you don't understand your own strength. You have to manage your power. Like you can't be as rough or as, you can't unleash all this power on her because she can't handle that. She will get hurt. And it's kind of that same message where Elsa unleashed her power in fun ways.
Yeah.
And Anna got hurt.
Right. Because they were being children and didn't know their limits. So Anna was just aggressively running when Elsa was like trying to get her to slow down. And the other thing too is like when the mom and dad run in, and I mean, I don't think it's to their own fault. It's a literal example of how often us parents like just impulsively respond because you're not thinking it's an emergency. And
Right.
they say, what have you done? Yeah. And they mean it in a literal, what happened? Like, tell us what happened. But you can see in little Elsa's eyes, who, I mean, I don't know how old they are because their eyeballs are so huge. Like, I don't know, is she 6? Is she 9? Like just these huge eyeballs. And, and so I'm like, but you can see in her giant eyeballs that like that fucked her up. She was like, what have I done? Like she internalized that message of, I did this.
I fucked up. I'm the fuck up. I.
And I always, I don't know, as a parent, whenever like, especially if it's an accident, I'm always like, oh, sometimes accidents happen. That must have been so scary. And I always reiterate, like, sometimes we hurt like when the big one hurts the little one, I'm like, sometimes you do hurt the little one on accident. Mm-hmm. And that must have been scary, or you must have felt really bad because I see that your face looks sad, but it's reminding them you can feel sad, but I understand you're not trying to hurt your brother,
Well, and for our parents that, would come in and say, what have you done? Okay. Cause I mean, I've done that.
I've done that plenty of times.
The important part is there was never another discussion with her that took away that blame.
Right.
It went so far as to, they had to basically take her to the troll. They're trolls, by the way, the troll healer. Okay. Which you could say is like a hospital, like, oh, you broke her arm type thing, or she could die. So now she has to go to the hospital. So then they then say, oh, well, Elsa, your magic, you're going to have to hide your magic and we're going to erase the memory of your magic. The thing that connected you and your sister, we're going to take all of that away and we're going to glove your hands and hide your gifts. So,
and not only that, but they had to separate rooms. They had a shared room and they had to separate rooms. Like everything changed. Yeah. And the only person who knew the why was the one who couldn't talk about it.
Elsa. And then
so kind of like, yeah, I think the whole first half of this movie, I was fucking pissed for Elsa. I was like, why the fuck does everyone want me to watch this fucking movie? I was raging. I was like, this child, this is horseshit. Because of course, I watch it as a grown up and I'm like, this makes no sense. This is absurd. I'm upset.
So of course, Elsa literally grows up terrified of the impact she can have on the world. Because, I mean, and how often do we as individuals, I mean, even as a grown-up, you see grown-ups who do one thing, make one mistake, and now they're terrified to take a risk again. And so you have this little girl, made a mistake, terrified to take a risk, doesn't want to kill anybody, and her parents don't say anything different. They don't guide her. They're not like, hey, let's get you lessons on how to handle your magic. Or,
No, they
hey,
don't do any further research, but
well, they
like
do
all
because
of
they
the
disappear to go
well, but
find the
all of
answers.
the scenes though, it's very much like Elsa's alone. The
Right.
rest of the scene, like all of the beginning scenes, it was Anna and Elsa package deal. The rest of the scenes from the accident on was Elsa alone. Elsa alone in her tower. And
Right.
then mom and dad would be there giving her gloves and then they'd leave. You know, like they were just very touch and go. Touch and go.
It was
Like
almost like they were
they
afraid of
were
her
afraid.
power.
Jinx.
Yeah. And then you have this poor little girl that she has this huge gift. I mean, because hopefully if you're listening to this, you've seen the movie, but she has this incredible gift that is so unique, but she's terrified because nobody is guiding her how to do it. Nobody's
Right.
guiding her through this.
Well, and not only did it shift the entire family dynamic, but the entire kingdom. They shut the gates. Nobody came in and saw them anymore. Like, again, think about being a small child, whatever single digit age that Elsa was, when this one accident happens. She not only loses a sister, she loses her entire community.
Mm-hmm.
How
Oh my God.
isolating. That's
And
why I was so upset. I was like, why do people like this movie? This is terrible.
well, but then you didn't even add the third layer on top of this. Then her parents die.
Of course, because why not, right? Disney just
Disney.
really going in for the childhood trauma, you know?
At least it was both parents this time, not just one. We're like, you know what? We're going to go balls to the wall and we're going to take both of these
Be like,
motherfuckers.
hey, you want to know what's going to really piss them off? We're going to kill her parents.
Both of them. Right after she gets isolated and her sister has no memory of her gift. So Elsa has no one to talk to. She has
Right.
no one to confide in, no one to guide her. So she is literally living within her own prison her entire 9 to 18 would be my guess.
Right.
Like, and everybody, like, I love Anna and her innocence, but it's like Elsa's not being an asshole because she's not opening the door. She's actually, in her mind, she is protecting her sister. She
Right.
doesn't want to hurt her. And she has no idea the capacity of the power that she holds. So she doesn't know if she opens that door, she might kill her sister. And that's literally all she has left. So it's
Right.
like, I have to close you off to protect you, but really I'm protecting me.
Right. Well, and it shows you that it's like these, I don't know, this kind of reminds me of Beauty and the Beast, like with Lumiere and Cluxworth. It's like they both had something terrible happen and something, and their response, like, I don't know, you tell me, but like, I don't necessarily know or think that Elsa has like something diagnosable, but she did go to like Clocksworth went the uptight, anxious, overthinking, like excessive side, and Anna went the whole like, I have no boundaries and I'm desperate for love and attention and friendship. I'm going to talk to the walls until I finally see it a living human. And like, and when I do, it's going to be magic, because she probably was raised on these old school Disney movies like Snow White and thought her prince would come scoop her up and save her.
I think you could argue PTSD for both of them as well. But
Right.
Anna's came in the form of losing her parents and her sister. Elsa's came in the form of also losing them, but losing herself. Anna never lost herself. Elsa lost a piece of herself in the process.
Yeah.
And
It's
so,
kind of like, just like with PTSD, I have so many clients where like they don't remember a chunk of their childhood or all of their childhood. I have some clients where they're like, I literally have no memory of fourth grade. I don't even know who my teacher was. I don't think that existed.
but what's
Like, I can't.
interesting is even though Anna didn't remember the childhood because it was wiped from her mind,
Yeah.
she still remembered a
The
connection
feeling.
to building the snowman.
Mm-hmm. Well, she remembered the feeling too, which that really reiterates how emotions are the link and the healing point for trauma. Because when you can heal the emotion, when you can heal the source of the emotion, which is usually the traumatizing experience, that will help decrease your PTSD symptoms.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, she had that subconscious memory. Do you want to build a snowman? I mean, that whole thing. She didn't remember Olaf.
No.
Consciously, but
Right.
subconsciously. So the fact that that was her desire with her sister in, that whole song was built around, do you want to build a snowman? It was like that memory of once was, though she couldn't verbalize that. And I think for me, this is one of my frustrations with talk therapy for kids. So often you have, let's say Anna was 6 when that happened. You want to try to help PTSD through talk therapy. Anna doesn't understand why she wants to build a snowman with Elsa, other than the fact that she just wants to hang out with Elsa. She doesn't understand the layers within that. So talk therapy, what the fuck is that going to do? She's just going to say, I just want to be with my sister, because she doesn't have the memory of the traumatizing experience.
Right.
And this is why talk therapy with kids, it angers me sometimes when like the courts are like, they need to go to therapy. Okay, can we stop sending all of these little babies to talk therapy because they don't want to fucking talk? They don't know what to talk about because they can't picture it. They can't visualize.
Well, and there, there's so many other therapies, even for nonverbal, like infant level ages, where all of it is the emotional connection.
Yes.
It's the parent-child interaction therapy, right? Like the PCIT, like having the therapist observe the interactions and essentially teach the parent, this is what you say, this is what you do when baby does X, Y, and Z. Because it's all about healing that emotional connection. Imagine if Anna and Elsa had PCIT straight up after that entire situation.
Yeah,
if
the parents would have learned how to help Elsa and Anna.
Because it would have needed to be 2 separate ways, because they're 2 separate girls, and their trauma was 2 separate things. Anna nearly died. Elsa kind of almost killed her. And so very traumatizing experiences, and the way in which they receive love or feel safe is different. So mom and dad would need to do that differently for each of their girls.
Yes. And yet none of that happened. So and I don't know the timeline between this trauma event and when parents left. My hope is it wouldn't have been instantly.
Well, they were older because she was already close. I guess I assumed it wasn't shortly. It was closer to when she was bigger, when she died, wasn't it? Oh, she was like middle school. Like it appeared like elementary when they were little with the accident. Middle school and mom and dad went away and died, and then like high school, she's like a teen, like 16, I'm sure. When she was the coronation, 18, 16. What is it? What did they say?
But then, okay, so then let's talk about, like you said, with Anna. So Anna is desperate for love. Okay. So
desperate.
How desperate, absolutely desperate for love. And I mean, you remember in that Coronation Day song, she's elated that people are coming over. She's shoving chocolates in her mouth, which again, we've talked about a lot of times the trauma response ends in overeating, because when you eat, especially sugary, chocolatey foods, or when you eat a lot of yummy things, it invokes the feelings of love within your mind. And that's why people, especially if they've endured significant trauma, tend to hoard food or overeat. So again, healing that emotional aspect, that need for love, can perhaps solve some of those tendencies. But then she fucking meets Hans, who is a sleazy motherfucker, and is like, yep, let's get married.
Yeah. Well, and like you can see the, like, I mean, you can feel and see as grown-ups watching it, the sarcastic undertone of like, this is what Disney fucking does, you know? So like here we are delivering it. And but what's funny is, you know, in this modern day Disney is they're showing how Anna's like, yeah, you know, like no questions. No
Mhm.
questions asked at all.
But they
This is
don't leave it
exactly
there.
how the movies wrote it. And I am not questioning a thing.
Yes. And, you know, previous Disney princesses, it does end there.
Hmm.
It's this, I'm in love and I'm getting married and my life is happily ever after. But the beauty that Frozen did was it took, like you just said, the tradition and it twisted it.
Right.
It twisted it into a real life love story, but the love story wasn't Anna and Hans or Anna and Kristoff even. It was Anna and Elsa. It was this reconciliation within themselves, within each other, within this familial bond that had been taken from them in different ways, but desperately sought after.
Right. Well, I guess when you move on to the other characters, what I like about, like, the more times I rewatch it, the more I appreciate it, and I don't get as irritated at like what they did to poor Elsa. Because when it moves on to, like, you know, Elsa freaks the fuck out, calls a spade, and is like, you can't marry someone you just met, like that a girl, right? And she was probably very alternative for that time period because, like, you know, that wasn't modern day. So
Mhm.
look at her go. So then she goes AWOL and runs away, right? And how, I mean, I'm totally jumping ahead, but basically when Anna and Kristoff meet, and what I do like about it, the more times I watch it, is it shows you how awkward boys and girls are when they first meet. You know what I mean? Like when like it's just like that weird exchange of like, ugh, but like we're still going to keep talking, and like, I'm not sure about this bothers me about you. And but it's a normal, I feel like a realistic dance of, it's not perfect when you meet somebody that you like, and they don't always say everything that you love, but he was always honest. Like, think
Yep.
about the traits that I would hope most people hope for in a partner.
I mean,
Always
Kristoff was a
honest.
beautiful person.
Yes, he was always honest. He was always very uh I lost the word.
Authentic. Like
Yes.
he he wasn't an asshole, but he also wasn't like, I have to sell myself for you. Like he knew how to create boundaries. He knew
Yeah.
how to be like, okay, well, we should tell Olaf that he's a snowman. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
when Anna's like, don't you dare. When Olaf goes off on this in summer, when he wants the summer song, and Olaf's like, we got to tell him.
Kristoff
Or
said, yeah.
Kristoff's like, we got to tell him. And Anna's like, don't you dare.
And in that example too, it shows you just like couples, they're both right.
Yes.
And you can make it work even though you're both right and you're both polar opposite opinions about the same thing.
But true couples that survive are friends first. And that's what this showed, was they became friends first. They
Right.
weren't even a couple. It wasn't the, oh, I fell in love with you the first moment I saw you and I just love everything about you and I'm going to be blinded to the fact that you're trying to get to the throne.
Right. And he even would be like physically courteous, like he would scoot away from her in the sled, like he would make sure to always be like, oh, but your boyfriend, you know, like it was a very nice demonstration of like he was very good with his boundaries, very upfront, great communication, and like very confident in himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he knew who he was.
He
And
did.
he knew who he wasn't. He knew what
Yes.
he was willing to do and what he wasn't willing to do. Also, I know that the actor who plays him is gay, but I have the biggest crush on him. Like,
Who doesn't?
oh my God. I am just in love in love. I'm in love with him.
That's
Anyhow.
because he's so pretty.
Oh, he's just so adorable. And I just love his personality. Anyway, so you have Anna go off, or Elsa go off. And for the first time in her life, she didn't have to be something for anyone. And
Right.
how often in, you know, if you've experienced any kind of trauma, or even if you haven't experienced trauma, if you've grown up with fucking watching Snow White and shit, and you think you have to be all these things to all these people and you know, get grumpy to like you, the moment you are free to just let it go, let it go.
Let's talk about that song.
I sobbed. It was healing and painful.
So I didn't see this movie until like probably years after it came out.
Oh, I'm the same. I refused. I didn't want to watch it.
I don't know. I just was like, what's the big deal? Like, like I didn't have littles enough to appreciate it. And like, it was girls. So my stepson was just like, whatever. And like, he would always see movies with his mom. So we were like, well, he's already seen it. Like, what's the big deal? But I remember knowing, like hearing the Let It Go. And I remember being like, I don't understand what the big fucking deal is. And then when you see it in the movie, I'm like, she throws her gloves off and she's just free, so loud. She doesn't care who hears it. I'm like, yeah, girl, you fucking step into your power and you build this. But she's simultaneously doing what she does best, building more fucking walls.
Yes.
More walls. Oh, because she's still insecure in it. She's afraid of it.
Well, okay, so I have goosebumps because yes, it's stepping into your power, which I think, again, the Disney message of several of the princesses up to this point, a lot of it has been your power is either controlled by society or controlled by, you know, the male influences, or controlled by, you know, who women should look like at that time. Okay. So, when that I guess would be society, but this is her moment to decide for herself who she wants to be. And you're right, she did build walls, but what I loved about it was she built a sanctuary for herself where she could explore who she really is. And I love that, because that's really the first step of figuring out who you are, is finding safety within yourself to dive in and figure out who am I? What are my gifts? What do I like? What don't I like? What kind of life do I want for myself? Do I want to be in charge of a kingdom, or do I want to live out here on my own? You know, all of these things, which then you have Anna coming to her, chasing her down, and, you know, invading that space. And I'm going to speak to it how I see it from Elsa's perspective. I'm trying to protect you and I'm trying to figure out who I am. And now here you are coming in here telling me that I need to go back to that life. I don't fucking know if I want that life. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I need. I don't know any of this. She doesn't even
know who she is, because she could never be who she is.
Exactly. Like, I finally, for the first time, am taking steps to figure out who the fuck I am, get away. And she then truly does harm Anna, right? She freezes her heart. But in Elsa's defense, it's like, Jesus, just give her some fucking space. Like, I know that you are also healing.
Right. And Anna's coming from a place of that fucking desperation. And I think that's why she irritates the fuck out of me, because I'm like, girl, just love yourself so you quit seeking it from others, okay? And honestly, they are a beautiful demonstration of they both need to do that. Like, I would yell at each of them as a client in a nice way, that unless you love yourself, no one else is coming in. So Elsa needs to love herself and get to know herself. Anna needs to also love herself and get to know herself so she can form healthy relationships. And it's like,
Right.
it shows you how polar opposite their behaving and their thinking is, but they both have the same exact core goals.
Because they both were denied love.
Yes.
Their parents died.
There's a wall in between them.
Right. Well, and then Elsa, the wall was between the two of them, but the wall was also between her parents and her.
And then the whole town, yeah.
And Anna, if they didn't die until they were in middle school age, if it was years later, and I can't recall, but let's say that is the fact, Anna likely still received a lot of that love from the parents, just not from her sister. So you could argue, Anna just really is trying to be enough in her sister's eyes. Therefore, she's seeking unhealthy relationships. Elsa is just
the
trying.
internet said Anna was 15 when her parents died and turns 18 shortly before Elsa's coronation.
So how are they, like 3 years apart? 2 years apart?
Hang on. Oh, the age of Elsa at coronation was 21. So Elsa was 21, Anna was 18. 3.
I was right. Okay. So how old were they when the incident? Like 6 or 9?
It said, what did I just say? Anna was 15, so 18. Anna was 18.
When the freezing happened.
In her head? Oh, the first one?
Yes. So 15 and 18 when the parents died.
When froze Anna's head.
her hair. Siri.
Wait.
I suppose I could Google it as well.
I'm typing so bad. How old were they when they were kids? 8 and 5.
Oh, well, this one. Okay. 8 and 5 when that incident happened. When he's saying, do you want to build a snowman? They were 9 and 12.
Okay.
So that was 4 years later. So 8 and 5. So 10 years. 10 years. Oh my God. Now I'm even more angry. 10 years. Yeah. Her parents were around and she still was isolated in her tower, terrified of her power. Yes. They could have really sought support and guidance for her.
Yes. And I always am like, visualize yourself at these ages. 5 is kindergarten, 8 is second grade. Remember, like, what do you remember in second grade? What do you remember in kindergarten? What pictures do you have? Like, that is the age that these girls lost each other, their parents, and the world.
Yeah, well.
So that shows you why Anna has 0 social skills, because she had none. Like, because 5 is like the beginning of a lot of social skills, and like you can kind of start to think for yourself, because 4 you're still like toddler or preschool. Right. So like that's why she has 0 social skills, no social cues, no inability. She has an inability to critically think, to know what safe people and safe relationships are, because she's never witnessed any relationships to know the difference between good and bad.
Right. Well, and then I was looking into Eric.
It makes me feel bad for her now, that even though I get irritated by her as a watcher. Yeah. But as a therapist, I'm like, I totally get why you did what you did. Totally get it.
And if you are a younger sibling, and I was an only child, so I don't personally understand this, but I can see it in my own children. The younger siblings, they just want the approval and the attention from their older siblings, because they think their older sibling is the coolest. Mm-hmm. And especially having those memories of that joyous interaction for 5 years.
Yeah, she put it on a pedestal because, also the therapist part of me is like, how Anna just will not fucking let her sister go, right? Like in a clingy, like codependent, annoying way. It makes sense as a therapist because she is emotionally still a 5-year-old.
Yes.
She is emotionally and mentally, maturity wise, a 5-year-old who just wants love and to be told that she is accepted and safe and she is okay. And that's why she's like, for the love of fucking God, Elsa, fucking love me. And then Elsa doesn't. So she goes, hey, this guy seems cool,
Right.
Because that's what trauma response does. You get trapped in the age in which this trauma occurred. 5 years old makes sense because she acts like a clingy little 5-year-old.
She does. And I was just reading Erik Erikson's developmental stages of development, and 3 to 5, it's stage 3. And that's where you are learning initiative versus guilt. So you're learning, can I put myself out there and achieve what I'm wanting to achieve? Can I ask a friend to play with me, or do I, kind of isolate within myself and feel guilty because I make mistakes? And then Elsa was in stage 4, which is 5 to 12 years old, and that's industry versus inferiority. So that is shame versus pride. So she literally went into shame, and she stayed there. Nobody took her out of that place. And that's the part that hurts me so much when seeing that, because then you have 12 to 18, which is identity versus confusion. So you have this 5-year-old, which actually 5 to 12 is still, I guess Anna was in that too. So you have both of these 5-year-olds that are living in the shame environment. Anna feels like she's the problem. Elsa feels like she's the problem. Anna, if I was just better and more fun, I guess maybe my sister would love me. Elsa is like, well, I just
get rid of this power. Yeah.
Then, and so then you get into 12 to 18, identity versus confusion. They're both fucking confused. They have no idea who they are. And this guy.
And it's so common. I work with so many people with PTSD or traits of PTSD. And there's, depending on where they're at with what they know and their healing, there's always a beginning phase of like, understanding their trauma and how to clean up their emotions, right? Like the emotion, like that 5-year-old, getting her to realize you're not 5 anymore. You don't need your sister to love you to be lovable, And so a lot of times when they reach that breaking point, there is a phase where then they're like, well, if that's not who I am, who am I? And so then we have to spend a chunk of time really going inward and identifying, who are you? Like, just not what's your job, like you're a mom or a dad. It's what are your qualities? What are your traits? What are your attributes?
It's almost like you
as a person. And like we do a lot of sessions on that, and then we still have to go back, because then now that we know who you are, it's easier to go back and continue processing the rest of your trauma. And so that's where it's, with both of them, that's what I would do as their therapist. I'd be like, okay, so like Anna, we're going to process this. Elsa, we're going to process this, because you both experienced this like deadly experience that was terrifying. You lost out on learning social cues, so we have to learn like what boundaries are 101. Then we have to go inward and figure out, who are you now that you have boundaries? Like, what are your boundaries? Well, you won't know unless you know who you are,
And who are you now that you know the truth? Like for Anna, once she learned about Elsa's powers, it was like, oh, whoa, I had no idea.
Well, initially she goes, she must have been lying. Like she didn't know. She goes, she must have just been lying to me.
And how often do people suffer in silence?
Everyone.
All the time. And it's like, you think the neighbor who is a dick to you is just an asshole, but you have no idea. Or the clerk at the shopping mall, who's like just doesn't want to say hi to you. Doesn't want to say hi to you and is just, putting your groceries through. I always try to tell my kids, like, you have no idea. She may have just been told that she has to put her dog down later, that week. She may have just gone through a divorce. She may have just been diagnosed with cancer. Like, if we just assume that people are suffering, we don't always have to understand what from, but just have that compassion and understanding that it isn't all about you.
Right.
Like,
sometimes we all have bad days. Like, when have you been 100% happy 100% of the time? Let them have a bad day. It's not about you.
Right.
So sad for them that they had a bad day. So anyways, so she sings her kick-ass song. We got really stuck on that.
We did. But I love it because she's like, let it go. Let it all go. Let all of these attachments go. Let all of these fears go.
Kicks away Anna. Let's see. That slithering prince is like just in the background, subtly like fucking things up.
So let's talk about him for a second. So he is 13th in line for the throne.
Mm-hmm.
He knows, he obviously desires power.
He has an eye on the prize.
And so he is completely using Anna because she's the easy in. Elsa, no. But he can use Anna to get in and kill Elsa, and then he's king. Because there's no way he was going to be king of his own kingdom. So he's power hungry. So
and that was his agenda from the get-go.
So what do you think that is? Like, I guess, would that be a personality disorder, or would that just be he's just an asshole?
Well, would that be traits of, not necessarily diagnosable, but traits of antisocial personality disorder?
I don't know, because he's like power hungry. And we don't know anything about his backstory other than the fact that he's the 13th, which means more than likely he probably experienced abuse by his older siblings, some form of neglect, because parents can only provide so much attention. I can't go to every single one of your baseball games when I have, oh my God, my hair is a mess. When I have, it's like,
okay, so here's it. I don't think he necessarily would have this personality disorder, but here's a checklist of symptoms. Here we go. So deceitful, hostility, irresponsibility, manipulativeness, risk-taking behaviors, aggression, impulsivity, irritability, lack of restraint, anger, boredom, general discomfort, ignoring right and wrong, lying to take advantage of people. It's a lot of like criminal behavior.
Yeah. I mean, he tried to murder Elsa.
Manipulative, deceitful, reckless, no care for other people's feelings. Because a lot of times people's feelings are like, with other personality disorders, like other people's feelings are like, that's like what gets them off, like their turning point. Antisocial personality is just like, I don't care what your fucking feelings are. I could give two shits.
It's what I want and my end goal.
It's like, it's almost animalistic and instinctive because there's just no emotion. Like, I want this, so I'm going to get it. I don't care how. It might hurt you. I might injure you, but that's cool.
It's all self-serving.
Yeah.
And Anna seemed so shocked as Kristoff is desperately trying to get her to Hans for the true love's kiss. She is still of the mindset that is going to save her life.
Right. Well, and it goes to show you, like, opposite of Beauty and the Beast. You can see in like Kristoff's behavior that he's starting to fall for Anna, but he knows that Anna thinks she found the love of her life, so he takes her to him. Mm-hmm. Unlike, Gaston, who tries to murder Belle's love of her life.
Right.
But you want to know what's funny, though? I was like, when we get to this scene in this podcast, I'm like, so watching it as a grown-up, when like, oh, Hans, I need true love's first kiss. I'm dying. You know, and like how dramatic it is.
Yes.
And like as a grown up, I'm like, well, he's not gonna fucking kiss her. But as soon as he did it in the show, my like, I shit you not, my like inner 7-year-old child was just like the fuck?
What?
Because like, you know, growing up with Cinderella and Snow White and like all of the classics, I was like, what the fuck? Because like as a grown up, I understand, and it was kind of funny because Anna was irritating. But as a child, I was like, well, no, that's what the prince does. It's effortless. It's easy. Like we talked about with Snow White. We don't even have to try. We don't even have to have a conversation, and we're in love and it's perfect. And then we'll kiss and it's magic, right? And it's not necessarily like that's what I believe as a grown-up, but I think that inner child growing up watching those movies in me saw that as a grown-up and was like, the fuck just happened?
Well, and he even made the comment.
My mind as a 7-year-old that would happen in a Disney movie because it never did.
He even made the comment, oh, if only someone loved you. Because she's like, I need true love's kiss. He's like, oh, like he said something along those lines. And it was like, oh my God.
I mean, it hurt. My heart was sad because it was my little inner child. She just was like, oh my God. Because again, as a grown-up, I was like, obviously. But as a child, that kind of rocks your world a little bit when you grew up with the movies we grew up with.
But what I loved about that was she had been looking for love in all the wrong places. And yes, it was a dagger, but it was a dagger that turned her in the right direction. You know, and let's talk about Olaf, because I feel like Olaf is kind of like the
fairy godmother,
the consciousness, like the
Jiminy Cricket.
Yes, like he was
fairy godmother. He was Jiminy Cricket. Yeah,
he's like, you. I mean, Kristoff loves you, and she's like, what? Like she's so dumb. Oh my God! Like seriously,
that's why I was like, die, bitch! Like in that scene, grown up me was like, I hope she fucking dies in this movie's over. Like I went to a weird place. But Olaf was pure love.
He was. And it just shows you how she believed the words of love, not the actions of love.
But she also never witnessed actions.
Right. And how many of our clients do that, right? Because, well, obviously
he loved me.
He said
he would never do it again.
Right. He loves me and I have to believe him. But actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
Actions are so much more important. Kristoff is taking you to this guy that he's like, what the fuck? You love this guy and you're marrying him after a day? Like, that's weird, but okay.
Yeah.
And
I even had a client would like, it took so long. They were like, but she said that I was the one who was making her believe that. And I go, did you say that? Did you do it? Like what? And he goes, I would never do that. And I'm like, but she kept accusing him of, you keep doing this, you keep doing this. And I was like, when did you do that? And he goes, I don't know. I never said those words, but she just kept saying I was saying it. You know, so it's like, listen to the words that they're saying, but listen to the actions that are actually happening.
Right. I mean, there's plenty of times in my life where I've said the wrong words, but my actions show that I don't mean any harm. Words can be meaningless. I mean, and I'm a words of affirmation love language. Like I love, tell me how awesome I am and tell me how much you need me in your life. And I'm like, oh, yay. But it shouldn't overpower the actions.
Right.
But for her, the actions were confusing because it was like she knew Elsa loved her, but the actions that Elsa showed were that of not loving her.
Right. Well, and then so Olaf doing things like, you know, melting himself to save Anna. You know, he just like we're talking about all
Well, you're jumping ahead. That's Frozen 2.
Nuh-uh. He melted himself when Anna was freezing to death, when what's his face wouldn't kiss her.
Oh, because he got in front of the fire.
Yeah. He goes, fire, this is what it feels like.
In
Yeah.
summer.
And so but he just was like, he was the example of like just being in the moment, being the most mindful character who just is, his only focus was what was happening right in front of him. Kind of like they'd be asking questions, like, yeah, why? Yeah, why? You know, like everything was just like, he's no further than you are. He's not assuming anything. He's not thinking 2 steps past go. He is only listening to the current actions
and
words.
accepting everything around him in that moment and responding to everything with either curiosity or love, which is
he always
truly
assumed the
best open, the most open of any character in the Disney world. Like you should be that open. He is crazy wise, yet is unassuming and doesn't think he's that wise. And he's like, oh, okay, well, that doesn't make sense, but okay. He's trusting. He is, yeah, he's a brilliant character. He truly is. Other brilliant characters. Can we just for a hot moment give just a moment of love and affection to Oaken?
Yes. Woohoo.
Woohoo!
Big summer love. This weather, right?
Hello, family. Like the best businessman ever. You know, it was summer. Now it's winter.
And he's so optimistic. He goes, weird weather. Like, not like, oh God. Like, just like, huh.
Like my business is going to fail. He's just like, well, big summer blowout. He just
rotated what was on sale. That's all.
He is flying off the shelves. I'm gonna have time in my sauna. Yoo-hoo.
Oh my gosh.
He's brilliant.
He was great. The trolls. We didn't talk about the trolls.
Oh, these magical little beings of wisdom and love and acceptance. And that's the world. So it goes to show you too, all right, that Kristoff was surrounded by love
and
acceptance for whatever and magical thinking. I mean, he literally spoke for his reindeer. He grew up appreciating nature and all life around him.
Right.
And finding the rhythm within the environment. I mean, his job was in the environment. He grew up with these little trolls that were little rocks. And he grew up around his reindeer. I mean, he literally was surrounded by the world and love.
Right. And he also, like, we didn't really talk about him either. Kristoff was the most grounded. Like, he was the most realistic, healthy character that a Disney movie has really had since we've started this Disney Diagnoses discussion. Right? He has clear communication, clear boundaries, clear expectations. Yeah, he has flaws. He demonstrated emotions. He would also apologize when he needed to. He would also stand his ground when he needed to, and he would walk away when he needed to. And all with respect and love. He's probably the healthiest character we've ever talked about.
Agree. Also, I'm in love with him.
The cartoon or the gay man?
Yes, both.
Yes.
No, but you're right. But again, I think if you look at the trolls, they're really the trolls family versus the royal family. The royal family, I think, in many ways can represent the current American culture of materialism and must have, and what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. And we live in this box that we have created for ourselves. Whereas to me, the trolls really represent the indigenous wisdom of interacting with wholesome love and respect in nature and seeing magic in all things and
Well,
responding.
there were no walls. Like the family was the whole community. It wasn't just mom and dad.
Right. Like he was raised by that entire community. You're right. It
Yeah.
wasn't. So had Elsa and Anna been raised in that environment, would they be dealing with this isolated, I don't know who I am mentality? Or would they have learned to accept their gifts and their magic because they would have been surrounded? Yes, loss is hard, but when you are surrounded by a village of
Right.
love, when you are able to go out into nature, I mean, look at Elsa went out into nature and started finding herself. She broke free from that castle of walls to find herself, to have the freedom to explore. And there's so much to be said for, again, that indigenous wisdom within so many cultures, like, you know, your Hawaiian culture, your Native American culture, your, you know, Chinese culture. Like there's so much wisdom to be had. And a lot of that language is seeing the magic in all things, in all creatures, in all the wisdom comes all around us, not just, you know, within the walls. I guess I don't know if I'm making any more sense, but
You are.
thank you. Like the elements, you know, how much wisdom did Olaf have? He's fucking snow. Like if you think about, like, he wasn't in human form.
Mm-hmm. Olaf was just the curious version of Kristoff, right? Olaf was still learning who he was because he was brand new. But he was coming at everything like a child with curiosity and wonder. So he probably was like the equivalent of what Kristoff was when he started that beginning scene of him as a little child being raised with the ice people. And, you know, just like you said, if they were like if Anna and Elsa were raised with that same community of people, like all children are like Olaf, I think, just curious, full of love, until the world either comes at them with love and community and open arms and like no closed doors. And I think this other thing that I always talk to clients about too, they're always like, well, when they argue, like, well, everyone has something bad that happens in their child, or like everything, or like parents who are like, well, the world is tough, so like I can't baby my kid. And I'm like, true, I agree. However, our job isn't to prove that the world is hard. Our job is to make sure we are the safe people that they can always come home to when the world is a piece of shit. We want them to know that they have a safe landing zone. That's what Kristoff would do. He would go back home when he needed them. Like he's like, I know where to go. Like he can go home. He knows who to turn to when there's an emergency. And so I go, that's what parents, I think, goal should be for their children is be honest. Be like, yeah, there are bad people in this world. And you can always tell me when you meet them. You can always come to me when you feel scared. You can always tell me when you get hurt. But I'm not going to be the source of that, right?
You know, and it makes me think of like a baby gate. You know, you put a baby gate at the top of stairs until your child is capable of understanding the danger of the stairs and walking down the stairs. That's when you take away the baby gate. So I think the argument could be said that we need to put up these emotional baby gates of, I want you to understand this is scary. This is dangerous. Let me guide you into understanding what that is, understanding how scary and dangerous that can be. And then once I feel like you have a pretty good handle on it, I can take away that baby gate. But I'm not just going to harm you and set you up for,
push you down the stairs and say, see, we need a baby gate.
That's how hard the world is. You should watch out, you know?
Yeah.
And when you do fall down the stairs, which every child, every adult still does, you're like, okay, yeah, now what did we learn? And here I am. Let me hold you. Let me kiss your boo-boo. Let's go to the hospital if we need to, whatever.
Yeah. I'm here for you though. Good thing, like, I will always take care of you when you're hurt.
So then the very end, I very much love that it was the love of the sisters that healed. And even though Anna was running to Kristoff,
But she took an aggressive turn when she saw Elsa was still there. She, like, that detoured her real fast.
well, when she saw Hans was going to kill him, it was like this. I'm angry and upset. My sister has hurt me. She has physically hurt me. And all I want is love. So I can go get it right now and fuck her, right? She has hurt me several times. She wasn't there for me. Fuck her. But here she is about to be harmed so badly. And Anna jumps in because that's a love that it was kind of like, for me, it was, she realized that it wasn't that she was needing to receive love. It was that she was needing to give love.
Yeah. Well, I think for both of them, it was, Elsa was learning how to receive love and Anna was learning how to give love to a safe person. Yeah. Because Elsa kept rejecting love because she never received it growing up. And Anna was just giving it to anybody who was in like a 5 square foot radius.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it was them learning, oh, this is good, safe,
I can trust this person.
Good, yeah. Unconditional love. That's the word. Good, safe, unconditional love. Yeah.
Yeah. Because they hadn't been really given that.
No, they gave each other what they always wanted as children, which is always what I do in therapy. I'm like, what did you need most as a child? You needed to receive love. You needed to give love. No one was taking it from Anna. No one was giving any to Elsa. And they finally got it.
And it wasn't until Elsa opened up her heart that she was fully able to understand the magic that she held within her.
Because when she did that, that was when she had 100% control of her powers. She didn't need the fucking gloves. No one was afraid of her. The whole community was like, yeah, girl, we see you. We love you. You're our queen. Like, yay. Big
we're ice skating.
At the end. Yeah. Yeah.
So love
is all you need.
It is all you need. I mean, if you look at what did a fear-based mentality do to their individual lives and the world around them? When we are living out of fear, we are destroying ourselves and destroying the world around us. When we are living out of love, we are healing ourselves and we are healing the world around us. We are interacting beautifully. And it doesn't mean that there weren't hiccups perhaps along the way, but it's the response that is needed is love, not fear. Fear isolates and destroys. Love heals and connects. Oh, God, let it go. Let it go. Yeah. Also, I heard these 2 jokes recently. Why can't Elsa have a balloon?
Why?
Because she let it go. Let it go. Also, why is there yellow snow?
Why?
Because Elsa let it go. Let it go.
Yes, girl.
My kids love that. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Any last therapeutic thoughts that you have, Jamie?
No, none right now. Anyone else? Feel free to send us a DM or a message.
Please do.
What you think.
And let us know who your favorite character is, because, you know, obviously I'm in love with Kristoff, but I also love Oaken and Olaf.
The males were coming in real strong in this.
They were,
Yeah.
which actually was, I loved it. And I loved that they were there for the females' exploration of themselves and healing. You know, the men were just.
Well, they were the most secure characters in themselves, too.
Yeah.
That's why you like them, too. You're like, yeah, you know who you are. I like that. That's
Yeah.
good. You're a good person.
And they weren't pushy.
With you.
Yeah. I like that. I love that. I can't wait to talk about Frozen 2. There's so many.
I know. Layers.
So fucking much. I mean, another like, oh my God.
Oh, I was ugly crying for that one. Yeah.
God, I could ugly cry right now watching it. Anyway, thank you, guests, fans, friends, family. You guys are the best, and we are so grateful for you. And again, let us know your thoughts. Let us know a movie that you want us to talk about. And we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, thanks for all the likes, rates, and subscribes. Thanks,
Bye, family.
Bye. Bye, family.
If you think we're cool,
Or even if you don't,
please like or subscribe so you'll stay up to date on all things The Shrink Show.
thank you for choosing to spend a portion of your life with us. And remember, don't take yourself too seriously. Life is all a giant shrink show.
A Huda Media Production.
Side effects of listening to this podcast may include side aches or snorting from laughter, impromptu jazz hands, nodding in agreement even though you might be listening alone, an occasional "you said it, girl," and mild cases of existential dread. This podcast is strictly for entertainment and informative purposes only, and is not intended or implied to diagnose, treat, or otherwise substitute for professional mental health, medical, legal, or other advice. Thank you. Unicorn says bye.